The moment everything changes has finally happened. Romeo and Julian's first kiss. But here's the thing. You're not going to see it. Not yet. Welcome back to the 21st reading in the Wherefore Art Thou Journals series. If you are new here, every Thursday we explore selected passages from Romeo and Julian's private journals, the entries that were never meant for anyone else to read. Before we dive in, if you are not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can follow the journey each week. And don't miss our Monday shorts where I share sneak previews and behind-the-scenes insights into the story. This entry, much like Romeo's very first entry in Volume 1, opens with a very similar feeling, like something big has shifted. And it has. The moment this entire story has been building toward is finally here, that first kiss. Now, what we get in today's reading isn't the kiss itself. Instead, you'll see the lead up, the setup, the energy right before everything changes. Because sometimes, what happens before the moment is just as important as the moment itself. This is also one of Romeo's longer entries. He has a lot to unpack, a lot to process, and a lot to get off his chest after everything that unfolds. So, let's step into the beginning of that moment.
Sunday, April 2nd, 2023, 1:34 a.m. Entry by Romeo. I think I may have just ruined someone else's life. Why does everything go to shit whenever I kiss someone? This was supposed to be a beautiful moment, but everything went wrong. The kiss was incredible. Better than I could have imagined, but Benny and Marcos told me not to go back. Leave the phone, they said. I should have listened. Now I just want to cry. Hearing the yelling and screaming as I ran down the street, it sounded like he was going to kill him. What have I done? I've completely ruined Julian's life. Why did I pick that moment? Why tonight? Why at his house, of all places? I don't even know if I can get through this entry. Right now I need to breathe and focus on my thoughts. I can't go screaming my head off in this house at this hour. I didn't know what to do after it all happened. I ended up wandering alone for over an hour. Somehow I managed to sneak back into the house without waking Mom and Dad. But how am I ever going to face Julian at school on Monday? He texted me before, probably just as his father broke the bedroom door down. All he wrote was, Monday. I'm trying to take that as a positive sign, hoping he's not mad at me. Mom is right. I need to write everything down, get it out of my head. She always says it's the best way to stop overthinking. It's going to be okay, Romeo. You just need to relax. Trust. Patience. If I don't get this all out tonight, I know I won't sleep. So let me start from the beginning. Benny, Marcos, and I decided to walk to the party. Marcos had the address, so we followed him. When we got to the house, I couldn't help but admire how beautiful it was. The two of them wouldn't shut up about my new love interest, as Marcos kept calling Julian. I was surprised Benny didn't out me again. Marcos knows I'm gay, but he kept referring to Julian as her. Did I not tell him about Benny outing me? Maybe Marcos thinks Benny doesn't know. Marcos has never been great at keeping secrets, but he would do anything to protect me, even from Benny. I must not have told him. It must have been weird for Benny, though. He played along. Deep down, like Dad, Benny probably hopes I'll end up with a girl. He's tried matchmaking for me in the past. I think now he understands why it's always been a no. Anyway, when we reached the front door, before we could knock, it opened. Eska greeted us. He looked thrilled to see us, probably because he had been stuck at the party for an hour. Apparently the event was for his dad, who had signed a deal with the company hosting it. Eska took a call from his dad and told us how to get to the backyard. Straight down the hall, left into the kitchen, and through the double doors. I didn't even look around the house. I just followed Marcos toward the kitchen. That's when Benny called my name. I turned around to see a mix of dread, anger, and fear on his face. Something had unsettled him. He pointed to the pictures on the wall. I followed his gaze and froze. There was a photo of Julian. My stomach knotted when I realized he was part of the Capulets, the family my father has been feuding with for a decade. This is what we get for never talking about our families, our father's work, or even our last names. I told Benny I didn't care. They dragged me to this party and I was determined to enjoy myself. Now that I knew Julian was there, even seeing him from a distance was enough for me. Benny was furious, claiming we were going to die or something. I thought to myself, how bad could it be? Well, you'll see how bad it could be. We stepped through the double doors into the stunning backyard filled with people. The problem was, we only knew Eska, so it was awkward. At least I knew one other person besides him. Eska joined us shortly after. He seemed shocked to see me with Marcos and Benny. I get it, it was technically a family business event. He probably didn't expect me to be there. I didn't even know where we were going until we arrived. Eska wanted to introduce Marcos to Mr. Capulet, but I had no interest in sticking around for that conversation. Plus, I was thirsty after the long walk. Benny and I headed to what looked like a bar and grabbed 3 waters. I was eyeing the food tables from a distance as we walked to the bar. They were on the other side of the yard, separated by a makeshift dance floor. I don't drink, and Benny seemed insulted when I handed him a water. He's not even old enough to drink legally either, so I don't know what his problem was. He had been antsy from the moment we arrived. After grabbing the waters, he told me he needed to get some air. Considering we were already outside, I wasn't sure what he meant, but whatever, he abandoned me. I headed back toward Marcos to give him his water, but he was still talking to Mr. Capulet. Joining that conversation was the last thing I wanted to do, especially knowing what I knew about Mr. Capulet and his opinions about gay people. On my way over, a girl probably a few years older than me stopped to ask where I'd gotten the waters. I pointed at the bar, wondering how she hadn't noticed it. By the time I finished talking to her, Mr. Capulet had been pulled away for some reason. At that point, I still hadn't seen Julian. I thought about texting him to say I was at his house. The shock on his face would have been priceless. When I reached Marcos, he was standing alone. I was pretty hungry. Based on this writing, it might not seem like much time had passed, but we'd been there for about 45 minutes by then. The free food smelled amazing, and I wasn't going to pass it up. I'd noticed it the moment I stepped into the backyard. Marcos thanked me for the water, and as I left him, I heard him talking about Eska. He was probably off dancing with some girl, which turned out to be true. I didn't pay much attention though. I had my plate of food and stayed at the table. I pulled out my phone to snap a picture of the hot, pulled pork sandwiches because I wanted Mom to make them someday. That's when I looked up and saw Julian dancing with his mother. The expression on his face was hilarious. Confusion was written all over it. Meanwhile, Eska was dancing with a girl, but my attention shifted to the handsome guy behind her. Julian and I smiled at each other each time he turned my way, at least when his mother wasn't looking. He told me before that he always got stuck dancing with her at family events. I assumed this was one of those times. I stood there watching Julian. He was good at dancing. I was looking forward to trying it with him someday. Then, out of nowhere, Benny appeared. In the distance, I saw Julian's brother approach his dad, who was talking to Marcos again. By now, Marcos had started walking quickly toward me. Benny demanded that we leave, and to my surprise, Marcos backed him up. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to talk to Julian. Not that they knew that. Marcos looked back and saw Julian's brother getting closer. That's when the two of them grabbed my arms, and we were out of there. The last thing I remember seeing was Eska stopping Julian's brother in his tracks. That probably gave us the time we needed to make our escape. I don't like running, but that escape turned into a full-on sprint to get away. I really wish one of them had driven us there. By the time we were far enough from the house to feel safe, the two of them were laughing about the whole situation. Since we were in the clear, they resumed teasing me about the new love of my life. They weren't wrong, though. I tried to play it cool, but thankfully Benny's laziness interrupted the conversation. We were halfway to Benny's house, which was the farthest from the party. By this point, we'd been walking for about half an hour. They had slowed down, complaining how hard it was to walk in their nice shoes. I was fine since mine were more casual, but those two always have to look good for parties. Eventually, Benny refused to walk any further. Someone suggested a lift, but both of their phones were dead. That's when I remembered I'd left mine on the food table at the party. On purpose? Maybe. I couldn't leave it there, though. It wasn't exactly safe for a Montague's phone to spend the night at a Capulet's house. I had to go back. Neither of them thought it was a good idea. But what other choice did I have? I wanted to see Julian and finally have our moment. It felt right. Was it the biggest mistake of my life? Only time will tell.
Alright, I know. Not showing the first kiss might feel like a bit of a tease, but some moments are meant to be experienced firsthand as a reader, and trust me, it's worth it. It's everything they've been both building toward, everything they've been holding back. Fun fact, though, that kiss happens on April 1st. And yes, that date was chosen very intentionally. It plays into the story in ways that will become clearer as things unfold. It's also tied to something bigger, the planned release window for Volume 3 in 2027. Every release date in this series has meaning, little clues hidden in plain sight for readers to piece together. Now, let's talk about that party. Romeo ending up at a Capulet party is, of course, a direct nod to the original Romeo and Juliet. But the way it unfolds here is, in fact, very different. Once he's there, Romeo makes a choice. He stays. And then things escalate. Tyler pushes things forward. Tension builds. And in one seemingly insignificant decision, Romeo goes back for his forgotten phone. That decision? That's the turning point. What happens next quietly sets everything in motion, pushing the story toward an ending that may already be written. April is where everything starts to shift. The emotions get heavier, the stakes get higher, and this is just the beginning. If you've been waiting for this moment since the very first entry, take a second to like the video. It really helps this series reach more readers. And if you want to keep following Romeo and Julian's story as it unfolds week by week, make sure that you are subscribed. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you think the first kiss is the most important moment in a relationship, or is it what happens after that really defines everything? And if you want the full story, including everything I don't read here, you can order Wherefore Art Thou Journals Volume 1 through the links in the description or at romeoandjulian.com. Until next Thursday, keep your heart open, your journal close, and your story unfolding.